We are glad you're with us today. This is the Retirement Education Hour, and I'm back with Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler for another great edition of the show. And we're so glad that you've tuned in. You're joining us today. We do have a great program lined up for you, and we're going to get into the meat and the heart of that here in just a moment. I also want to point out that you're going to be hearing a lot about the Retirement Education Foundation today. Now, Kirk and Paul, they are financial instructors with this foundation, and the foundation, the mission there is to make sure that people who are getting close to retirement, newly retired, that they feel confident and have the education that they need around retirement planning. It does not happen by osmosis. It doesn't happen with luck or hope. It really does take action. And so we're going to be telling you how you can attend the foundation's courses. These are like master's level courses held at universities and colleges right there in your community so that you can feel confident moving into this next stage of life. Now, Kirk and Paul, it's great to be back with you, and we do have a great show. I want to make sure our audience knows that this program and many, many others are in our library, and you can find them wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Simply search for Retirement Education Hour and be sure to subscribe. You know, I mentioned the class, these courses really that are like these deep dive, almost these master's level courses on retirement planning, Kirk and Paul. We're going to dissect these courses today on the program, give the audience a taste of what's covered and what they can expect. I'm really looking forward to it because, boy, there is a lot that you go into.
Megan, there is. It's 8 hours of really advanced, comprehensive strategies, how to maximize your income in retirement, minimize your taxes, hopefully retire earlier. And the ultimate goal is give you enough education, knowledge, and ability to understand how to build a comprehensive retirement plan so that you don't have to live retirement with a sense of fear and anxiety, but instead a sense of freedom. And so today's show is a little bit different. We tend to, in our radio shows, we try to deep dive into a particular topic or subject to give you some of the information that the industry doesn't want you to understand and give you some of the tools to be able to retire with some of those freedoms. But today we're going to try to touch on more of the surface level, the topics we cover, and give you little nuggets. The intent of us giving you the topics and a little bit of the nuggets, maybe a little bit to stimulate some ideas in your own mind of why this course is so different and why those of you who are, that $700 to $10 million families, to retire without attending an 8-hour course is a mistake because you can spend more. I promise you can spend a lot more than anyone else is going to tell you can spend. But to do that, you have to understand how to build a comprehensive, individualized retirement plan. Paul, I'm trying just to scratch the surface and introduce the topic today. Hopefully you can help me out here a little bit and keep people engaged so we can get in deeper into the show.
Well, actually what's cool about this show is, sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes when we do our shows, it can at times feel a little fragmented. Right? The
me?
goal.
Come on.
No, not you. No,
It's me.
Not you. No, but the goal, of course, is we want people to come to class. But we only have a certain amount of time to do this, and we touch on different subjects. But the problem is people don't get a sense of the whole. I'm hoping today you guys stick around, listen to the whole show. I'm hoping today you'll get a greater sense of more of the totality of what we cover. We can't do any deep dives into this, but at least we'll scratch the surface on each of the main topics of the class. And I think that will give people a greater sense of what they need to attend for.
I love it, Paul, right? Because the end of the day, the reason why our charity, this is a national charity for over a decade, have been teaching classes, these 8-hour classes in some examples, the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, the University of Missouri, Columbia College, Oakland University, Eastern Michigan University. And we stream the classes live for wherever you're at around the country so you can attend even if you can't be there in person. And that's the purpose of these shows, is to hopefully give you enough information to get you motivated to attend these 8-hour courses. If you'd like to register, all you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity and go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Kirk, as we introduce today, I'm thinking there may be some people who are listening who are thinking to themselves, how are you going to do a whole show on retirement planning? You can do a whole show on investments, right? People who've not heard our show may not fully appreciate that when we talk about retirement planning, we're talking about not just investments, or we're talking about tax planning, income planning, estate planning, long-term care, health care planning, right? Legacy planning. There's so many things that go into it. And again, today the hope is that we'll give a little bit of information on each one of these topics. People get a greater sense of the whole class that they need to attend to.
I like it, and I will do my best not to get down too many rabbit holes, because I really like to give the listener, more advanced, detailed information around topics. Because when people are listening to this radio show, I know there's financial radio shows around the country with financial advisors trying to sell their services. The next 10 callers will get this, or the next 20 callers will get a free roadmap to retirement. Those should all be red flags. Now, the difference between those shows and what we're trying to provide is we're a charity that is designed to and was created to provide advanced financial literacy around retirement planning. For those people within 10 years of retirement, through retirement, how do I most effectively maximize my income, minimize my taxes, minimize my fear and anxiety? And to do that, there's no cookie cutter way, no simple solution. Everyone wants to try to make this easier than it is, and it's not. It's very complicated. I'm going to tell you, if you attend our 8-hour course, we do it over 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday. You have your choice. If you attend it, you're going to come back to us, and the criticism is this should have been a 12-hour course over 3 days or over 2 days. That's the feedback we get. But to get you motivated, you listeners, to attend this course and think you're not going to be sold something is challenging. This is fully educational. It's a charity. We have nothing to sell. It's purely to help you have a much better retirement. Because our fear for you isn't that you're going to outlive your money. I know that's your fear. You've been conditioned and manipulated to think that. Our fear for most of you listeners is that you're going to way underspend what you otherwise could be spending. So do yourself a favor. Register for one of our 8-hour classes. All you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we will be back. There is plenty more Retirement Education Hour coming up next.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show.
Always a pleasure to be alongside financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. They're both with the Retirement Education Foundation. And today we're breaking down the Foundation's courses, deep dives, really master's level courses, 8-hour courses in retirement planning, helping you get confident and excited about this next stage of life so you can enjoy retirement. We want you to have retirement success. These courses, as we mentioned, these are held at major colleges and universities in your community. So if you're listening today from Missouri, please know that these courses are held at the University of Missouri and Columbia College. In Michigan, they are held at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi and Troy campuses, or Oakland University. And you can go to the website to find out more, to get registered. And keep in mind, these seats fill up quickly, and we want you to get a seat. So go there now, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. The phone number to call is 800-240-8981. Again, that's 800-240-8981. So again, if you're in Missouri or Michigan, we have options for you. And by the way, the Retirement Education Foundation is a proud partner of Mizzou Athletics, and we would love to see you at these courses. And, Kirk and Paul, I know you'd love to see our listeners there as well. And today on the show, we're going through the course, kind of the syllabus, helping people understand what they can expect. One of the sections of these 8-hour courses talks about myths and misconceptions. What can people expect for this portion?
Well, anyone who's listened to our show for a long time probably have heard us do this specific show, the entire show, around myths and misconceptions that are promoted, advised, utilized around retirement. I mean, there's so many. We've got 8 minutes, Paul, and there's so many. So what maybe we should do is just sort of talk about some of them and like quickly. For example, the first one is what you invest in is going to drive your success in retirement. That is what the financial service industry would have you focus on, the investments. And again, you got to come to the show, but I can promise you it isn't what you invest in that's going to drive your success in retirement. It's where you take your income from and when that's going to drive your real returns, your overall returns, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into income planning, why that's the case. But it isn't stock picking, market timing. That is not what's going to drive success. Market timing your income distributions, not your investments, will drive success. That is a massive myth and misconception. Paul, go ahead and give another one.
Well, the next one actually I think will surprise most people. And I do need to put it in context. It really speaks to the listeners of our show. But the next one is there's this myth, this belief that our listeners are going to end up needing to live on less in retirement. That somehow in retirement, all of a sudden, they won't need as much. They won't spend as much. I mean, you hear that all the time. All people need is 80% of your income. That's a myth. I've not met anybody, at least, again, the people we meet, the people who attend our class. Everybody who attends our class, the majority of these people, when you retire, you're healthy. Keep in mind, you've worked your whole life, and you have a bucket list of things you want to do that you've not done. The last thing you want to do when you retire is live on less. Most people...
Paul. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
That's just because, at least our experience is most people live on the same, and even sometimes even more early on. You know, at some point, of course, you get into your late 70s, early 80s. That's true. You begin to slow down. But most people, upon retirement, who have the means, and that's the people listening to the show, they want to live on the same or more. That's a massive misconception.
Paul, let me tell you why this is the number that's promoted, that it's 78, 80% of your income. The reason the financial service industry has convinced you, have written articles, they all talk the same language. You don't need as much in retirement. And the reason why they say that is because the less of your money you spend, the more the financial advisors make. The less you spend, the more of your money they get to manage. And that's how they make a living, by managing your money. So there is no incentive for them to teach you how to spend what you could and should be spending. And factually, we know, because we have the study they like to quote. Remember, our listeners to our show is not the average baby boomer. The average baby boomer, Paul, will only retire saving $200,000-ish. That's all they'll have in retirement. In fact, 40% of baby boomers, almost 40% of baby boomers, all they have is Social Security. So of course, when they do a study, that skews the data. That's where they come up with the number. That same study tells us that 66% of you will spend more money in the first 5 years of retirement than you did the last 5 years you were working. So trust us when we tell you that is a myth and misconception. If you're a family bringing in between $150,000 and $350,000 a year, if that's what you're living on when you head towards retirement, that's at least what you're going to spend in retirement. If you are thinking it's going to be less, we have taught tens of thousands of people around this country. We have all the data. You're wrong. I don't know what people think they're going to do with the 2,000 plus hours a year they were spending working. Well, I know what a lot of them do. At least the do-it-yourselfers are going to stare at CNBC, stare at their computer screens, and think they're going to find some secret information that helps them be better investors, which is crazy because investing is easy. It's not complicated. Just buy the index, you'll win. Paul, one more. Give one more before we're done. You got another one?
Well, I think this is one of the biggest ones I hear, is that everyone is – this sort of goes back to what you were talking about before. Everyone is caught up in rates of return. Everyone thinks that over their lifetime, the rate of return they get is what's going to determine how long their money's going to last. When we get into income planning, we'll get more specific into this. But what we understand is it's not about rates of return. It really is the sequence in which you take your money out. And at the end of the day, maybe I'll tell the story in the next segment. I will tell you, if your average, right now, your average risk is aggressive, I will promise you, you have not planned for retirement, because there's no way you're going to be able to live on the amount of money you want to live on and be aggressive in the market. It's not about rates of return. You can't be. You can't be.
Paul, this is the biggest disconnect people are going to really struggle with. It's not your rate of returns, average rate of returns. It's real rate of returns. And to do that math, you have to include withdrawals and the impact of taking your income that you're going to have to take in retirement when the market's down. That is going to destroy. So it can't be, I'm just going to invest in my moderate growth strategies or my investment property strategies. If you do that, then you're going to have to live on the 3 or 4% withdrawal rates that they tell you should live on. If you actually have a real plan, you can live on 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates. Again, please come to the class to learn the truth about how to effectively plan for retirement. It's an 8-hour course taught at most major universities in your area, taught over 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday, streamed live from the universities from your home if you want to do that. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll return with Kirk and Paul right after this.
Listening from outside Michigan or Missouri? We stream courses live from the university so you can attend anywhere in the country. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org to sign up. And now back to the show.
Happy to have you with us for the Retirement Education Hour. And we want to let you know if you want to share this episode with a friend, maybe you want to listen again or visit our library and listen to a past episode, you are more than welcome to do that. In fact, you can find those episodes and this one as well anywhere you find your favorite podcast. You can simply search for the name of the show, which is Retirement Education Hour. And I would recommend click that subscribe button. And that means you're not going to miss a single episode. And we appreciate you listening today and sharing about this program with those you know and love who are also wanting a successful retirement, because as you know, it does start with education, and that's what this program aims to do. And of course, I'm here with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. They're with the Retirement Education Foundation, and the foundation's mission is to help you get confident through deep dive courses. These are really like master's level courses designed for you so that you walk away feeling good about your retirement future. And they're held at major colleges and universities wherever you live. So in the state of Missouri, you can attend at the University of Missouri or Columbia College. The Retirement Education Foundation is a proud partner of Mizzou Athletics. In the state of Michigan, these are taught at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, both Novi and Troy campuses, or Oakland University. And it's easy to get registered. I'm going to send you to the website now. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. You can jot that down. Here it is again, retirementplanningedu.org. You can find locations, dates, times that work best for you. Reserve your spot so that we can see you there. You can also call to register 800-240-8981. I want to get back to the program. Speaking of the courses, Kirk and Paul, we're talking about the courses today. We're really giving people an overview of what they can expect, some of the big topics that are covered, and what you want them to walk away with. I know income is covered. It's a huge topic. Tell us more about how you tackle that.
Okay. Listen, everyone, right now. Income planning is the key to retirement. To be able to maximize your income, there are some specific strategies that we have 8 minutes to discuss here. 8 minutes. In our class, we spend 2 hours specifically on this topic, okay? So in 8 minutes, I need you to understand that you can, all of you, 60, 65 years old, you can have withdrawal rates. You can take out 6, 7, 8, even sometimes 9% per year out of your investments with a 0 chance of outliving your income. We will teach you how to do that in the class. But to be able to take that 6, 7, 8, 9% withdrawal rates, you have to manage something called sequence of returns risk. That is the number one risk. Academia has been screaming about this for years. This isn't new. but I'm guessing most of you have never heard this. Sequence of returns risk. To be able to take those larger withdrawal rates to eliminate or significantly reduce the chances of outliving money, it's going to require you to manage where you take your income from. So instead of focusing on trying to manage your investments, manage where you take your income from when some investments are up and when some investments are down. As long as you have investments that are going to be non-correlated at times, you're going to be able to pivot where you take your income from. And if you do that effectively and manage that sequence of returns risk, you can have your 6, 7, 8, 9% withdrawal rates. But if you want to stay growth focused, if you want to have your investment properties, you want to do all those things that most people who have been very successful over the last 10 years with their investments continue to want to do in retirement, you're going to have to follow the financial service industry's rule of taking out 3 to 4% withdrawal rates. And if you do that, that just means you're going to likely leave your children a lot more money and you're going to live on a lot less money. It's not what you invest in, Paul, right? It's where you take your income from during different market events.
It is. And, I made a comment in the last segment and you talked about it briefly. I recently was looking at someone's portfolios and their average standard deviation was aggressive. I knew right away no one had planned their retirement because they were in the point in their life where they were actually taking money out. At the end of the day, no one wants to take their distributions from an account that's highly volatile and aggressive because the last thing you want to do is sell a stock or a bond when the market's going down. So if you want to do this right, every single one of your accounts, you need to have some monies that you can pivot to that have very little volatility. And when you do that, that is, of course, going to affect the overall how much risk you take. You need accounts that you can pivot to take your income in order to make sure you aren't exposed to sequence risk. And that, of course, affects overall growth.
Paul, you're talking about what you're talking about is something we describe in our classes, buckets within buckets.
Exactly.
Right? Again, this is a topic we spend a couple hours on, but you have to have different buckets of money for different phases of your retirement and always have an account that you can pivot to that is not exposed to market risk. It used to be we would just have bonds that we could pivot to years ago. It's been a long time. It's since 2016 since that strategy that still everyone in the financial service industry is using, having the bonds to be the pivot accounts. It doesn't work, hasn't worked since 2016, and that can't be your retirement plan anymore. You have to have a little different approach. You have to have different degrees of risk, not just one big pile of money that's 60-40 allocated. You have to have some money that's 100% equities. You have to have some money that has no market exposure. You have to have different buckets for different phases of market conditions so that you can pull from the right accounts. Come to the class and we'll teach you. This is what allows people to retire earlier, be able to spend 6, 7, 8, 9% withdrawal rates. This is how you do it. It's not what you invest in, and it drives me crazy. Here's 2 more quick things because we're going to run out of time in this segment. Is Social Security, folks, stop using your online calculators. That was a cookie cutter solution the financial service industry created so they didn't have to do the work or the analysis. It's a tax problem. In the class, we'll teach you how to calculate what percentage of your Social Security is going to be taxable and how your Social Security will impact the taxations on your dividends, your capital gains, and your RMDs. So Social Security is a tax problem. Secondarily, it can be a health problem, but it's more complicated than just your life expectancy. It's the life expectancy of the least health, the smallest Social Security benefits. Again, we're attempting to teach a class in an 8-minute segment here. So attend one of these 8-hour courses. They're taught at most all the major universities in your areas. It's like a master's level course taught over 2 evenings or 1 full Saturday. All you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity to attend. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back with Kirk and Paul right after this.
Classes are forming now. Go to retirementplanningedu.org to register. Again, that's retirementplanningedu.org. Use the promo code PODCAST to receive 50% off your tuition. And now, back to the show.
And we're glad you've tuned in today to the Retirement Education Hour. Great show with financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler. We're talking about the Retirement Education Foundation's courses. We're breaking them down for you so that you know what to expect before you attend. And speaking of attending, we'd love to see you there. Here's how you can register. Go to the website, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. You can also call to save your spot. Just call 800-240-8981. And to help you plan, here are the locations. If you're listening today from Michigan, keep in mind that these courses are held at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, both the Novi and Troy campuses, or Oakland University, and in Missouri. The courses are held at the University of Missouri and Columbia College. In fact, the Retirement Education Foundation is a proud partner of Mizzou Athletics. So get registered today. Go to the website, retirementplanningedu.org. And this very program you're listening to today, you're welcome to listen again, share with a friend. You can find all of our episodes in our library. Wherever you listen and find your favorite podcast, simply search for the name of our show, Retirement Education Hour, and click subscribe. All right, so Kirk and Paul, we've covered a lot today as we're discussing what's taught at these courses. I know investment strategy is on the list for the syllabus. Tell us more about this.
Well, as you would expect, any sort of retirement planning course will include investments. It is important as we talk about the class in our shows. Any of you regular listeners hear us regularly say that what you invest in isn't what's going to drive success. But what you invest in and how you invest certainly can drive failure. And we see this after teaching tens of thousands of people for over a decade in these major universities in your areas. We see what essentially people using the same strategies that help them to accumulate their wealth to get them to this phase of their life is the exact strategies that will cause them to fail in the retirement phase of their life. And I define failing as not outliving your money, because none of you guys still don't understand how your relationship with money is going to change and how much of this is behavioral. None of you will outlive your money because you won't let yourself outlive your money, right? What it's going to cause you to do, failure is you way underspending what you otherwise should be spending because you are chasing the wrong things and investing improperly. So in the class, and you're going to say, well, what do I mean? Well, you got to come to the class to fully understand what we mean, because we have 8-minute segment. Again, this is an 8-hour class we teach. So what we talk about, and one of the things that I will guarantee, Paul and I will guarantee, that after you attend this 8-hour course in the universities, we guarantee that you will not want to own actively managed mutual funds ever again in your lifetime. And if you still, after 8 hours of our course, still believe that you want to and you should invest in actively managed mutual funds, we will make a $2,000 donation to whatever charity you want. We've had to do it one time in 10 years, tens of thousands of people. Once we've had to. Because of the amount of fees you're paying to own mutual funds, and I'll give Paul really quick, I'll give the statistics. The average cost of an actively managed mutual fund is somewhere between 1.5% and 2.5%, depending on what study you want to believe. Your net expense ratio is not all the fees we will teach you in the class. The average performance of an actively managed mutual fund over the last 30 years, the average performance is 3.98%. The S&P 500 is over 10%. 40% of all mutual funds fail after 10 years. 40% fail. Not one mutual fund manager in the history of mutual funds, never, ever, ever once, have been able to stay in the top quartile, stay in the top 25 to 25th percentile for 5 consecutive years. They can never recreate and reproduce the performance for 5 consecutive years to stay on top. It's never happened. There's much more effective ways to invest. Individual stocks, individual bonds, and exchange-traded funds, which we will teach you about in the class. What to look for, how they charge, what the fees are, and what the most effective way to invest for retirement is going to look like.
Kirk, it's interesting because I don't know if you would agree with this. My experience in sitting in these classes and doing these classes for so many years, I think this is one of the hardest sections to teach, and this is the reason why I think it. I think most people come to the class, most people listening to this show are going to the class for investments. I think most people come to class thinking, oh, they're going to go to a retirement education class and they're going to learn about investments. And I think quickly they realize after going through this class that investments is probably the easiest thing that we have to do when we build a retirement plan. It is not rocket science when it comes to the retirement phase of your life. And I think people almost are a little disappointed when they realize, obviously, there's a lot we have to talk about. We have to manage fees, right? We have to know how to invest buckets within buckets. There's a lot of things we have to do. But people think it's all about picking the right stocks. They think they're going to come to the class and we're going to tell them, these are the 10 stocks. If you buy these stocks, you're going to be great. And they quickly realize that's not it. And I think that's why it's so difficult. I think people come with the wrong expectations. And I think part of the class is getting people to understand what really matters and what doesn't really matter.
Paul, that's because the industry has convinced them that by saying they are better at stock picking and market timing. So everyone thinks they can learn enough to be able to stock pick themselves in market time. Many of the people come to our classes, those are the people, this is what they've been focused on, and they think they've driven their success. And what they learn in the class is they have hurt their performance. They have hurt their performance. We show you if you just took $1 million, just stuck $1 million in the S&P 500 20 years ago, you just left it alone for 20 years, it would be worth $6.5 million today. None of you have performed that well. No one. You can't tell me what percentage of the S&P 500, you listeners can't tell me, of the S&P 500, what is healthcare, what is energy, in the Russell 2000, how much of that is financial services? You can't tell me any of those things. Kramer, who knows more than everyone listening here, I promise, and has teams of people and every CEO and CFO on speed dial, has underperformed the S&P 500 by greater than 100% over the last 20 years. You guys are focusing on the wrong things. I wish we had more time because I'd like to talk about how things are actually a little easier today because interest rates being as high as they are, now we can ladder muni bonds, corporate bonds, treasury bonds. We'll teach you how to do that in the class. The war on seniors and savers are over. There are effective ways to set up pivot accounts and income accounts if you get away from the rest of the financial service industry who's trying to convince you to spend less so they can make more. That's the bottom line. Attend one of our 8-hour courses. If you'd like to register, just make a $29 donation to charity. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back. Plenty more Retirement Education Hour straight ahead.
To find our latest white papers and webinars, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. And remember to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now back to the show.
We're glad you're with us. This is the Retirement Education Hour. Megan Mozak, joined by financial instructors Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Mettler. Now, Kirk and Paul, they're both with the Retirement Education Foundation. And we've been telling you about the foundation's mission, their desire to make sure you feel confident through education around retirement planning. And this does not happen by chance. It really needs to be intentional. And that's why the foundation exists. They hold these deep dive courses. These are 8-hour courses, really like a master's level type course in retirement planning. And we're covering all of the big topics. In fact, today's show focuses on that. It's what you can expect to learn about when you register for these courses. And I want to tell you where to go and how to make that happen. You can reserve your seat right now. Go to the website, retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. We believe you deserve a great retirement, and it does start with a plan that's based in education, confidence. You can also call to register 800-240-8981. And these are courses that are held at universities, colleges, major universities right there in your community. If you're in Missouri today, keep in mind that these courses are held at the University of Missouri. By the way, the Retirement Education Foundation is a proud partner of Mizzou Athletics, also held at Columbia College and in Michigan. You could attend at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi or Troy campuses, and Oakland University. Reach out today by phone 800-240-8981, or the website again is retirementplanningedu.org. Don't forget, you can re-listen to this program, share it with a friend, find it wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Search for the name of our show, Retirement Education Hour, and don't forget to click subscribe. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Kirk and Paul, you cover a lot at these courses. We've talked about myths and misconceptions, income planning, investments. I know tax planning is also on the list. I want to know more about this. It's a big one.
Yeah, yes, tax planning. We spend hour and a half, 2 hours on, maybe more actually, on taxes. We get into code. We get into income management, how to fill brackets, not bump brackets, how to minimize taxation on Social Security over your retirement. Everything that we talk about in the class is teaching you how to project through a 25, 30-year retirement how much you're going to pay in taxes, and then teach you how to run all the iterations to minimize what you have to take over the 25, 30 years. So I know we've got salespeople on radio. We're going to do a tax analysis for you. We've got taxes is a buzzword in the financial service industry. Very few people are really doing tax projections for retirement. They're doing tax projections that have recently happened or over the next couple of years. So Roth conversion is a big, big buzzword right now. Folks, there's so many problems with the way the industry is approaching this. What happens is they go to conventions, they get taught a few little strategies, or they give them this software or tool, and then they pretend to be experts, and you guys don't know better. First, you don't need to Roth convert all of your IRAs. In fact, you can take withdrawals out of IRAs and 401ks and never, ever, ever, ever pay taxes on them if you know how to manage your tax brackets. The government gives us $30,000 of elderly and standard deductions once we turn 65 years old. The first $30,000 we don't pay taxes on at all. So if we know how to manage and understand what impacts what taxes, for example, if you're in a 12% tax bracket, you do not pay taxes on capital gains and long-term capital gains and dividends, which then reduces your taxable portion of Social Security. I hope people are connecting dots. So you can literally still have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in retirement accounts, take your required minimum distributions and never pay taxes on them. So people are having you Roth convert way too much money, or they're having you just fill up a bracket. Let's Roth convert to the top of the 22% bracket. Why? The math problem, Paul, this drives me crazy. The math problem is on taxes isn't what's happening over the next few years. It's what is the next 25-year tax bill going to look like based upon today's tax laws, which are on sale. This is the lowest you're going to see your taxes ever. So what is it, best case scenario? And then how do we minimize it? Without knowing how to do that projection, you don't know how much you should Roth convert, when you should be recognizing your capital gains, when you should be owning dividend stocks or not, when to be taking Social Security without knowing the math and the rules and the codes. You can't do it properly. And no one's teaching you it. We are at this class, Paul. We are.
Yeah, no, and you know, there's another myth embedded in this conversation. There are 2 points I want to make. One is there's another myth embedded in this, that your CPA is going to do this for you.
No.
I mean, I still hear people say, well, my CPA will figure out, future tax, they'll do my tax planning. Folks, CPAs don't do tax planning, right? They do tax preparation. They'll figure out how much taxes you pay this year. They're not planning
for a year.
Yeah, they're not planning the next 10, 20, 30 years.
No way.
Right? A second point I want to quickly make is, we talk about tax planning. One thing we don't often hear people talk about, if you're married, you have to also think about the tax liability when one of you dies, right? Because the reality is when one of you dies, and most likely one of you is going to die first. Most likely you're not going to die together. When one of you dies first, you're going to have less income, Social Security is going to be gone, and tax rates go up because when you file single, tax rates go up. Part of tax planning is not just when you're married. Part of tax planning is to protect your surviving spouse. We spend a lot of time, Kirk, right, talking about how do we protect the surviving spouse when one dies, and that's part of tax planning.
Paul, you nailed it, right? And I want to put some color around it. When one spouse dies, when they go from married filing joint to single, your allowable income is literally cut in half. So taxes are going to go up. income's going to go down. And it also, your Medicare means testing gets cut in half for a single person versus a married filing joint. So most of our listeners with RMDs going to be high in a higher tax bracket are going to pay a lot more on their Medicare premiums as well. These are avoidable by knowing the math problem, how to do the math to figure out what it looks like if I do nothing, and then what's the most effective way running hundreds of iterations. And we teach you how to do this to find the most efficient path, not guessing, not just making up, not looking at a couple of years. Oh, it's a buzzword, or tax loss harvesting. That's all great stuff, but that is standard. That's standard stuff everyone should be doing. The other one, folks who are listening, if any of you are giving to charity or religious organizations, you are not getting the deductions you should be. And when you retire, you're likely not going to get any of the tax benefits. In our class, we'll teach you about something called qualified charitable distributions, QCDs, and donor advised funds. So every dollar you give to charity, you will be able to get to deduct it from your adjusted gross income or off of your total tax bill. You just need to know how to do it. Just attend one of our 8-hour courses, please, in the universities. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Back with Kirk and Paul right after this.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now back to the show.
Been a great show, and we're glad you've been part of it. This is the Retirement Education Hour. Megan Mozak here with Kirk Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler, both financial instructors with the Retirement Education Foundation. You can meet Kirk, Paul, other financial instructors when you make plans to attend the Foundation's retirement planning courses. And these are master's level-like courses on retirement planning. They're designed to help you get a full download of what you need to have a successful retirement. So if you're wavering, if you're not feeling especially confident, you know you want to retire and maybe retire soon, you owe it to yourself to be there, be at these courses. And they're conveniently located at major colleges and universities right in your community so that you can attend. If you're in Missouri today listening, welcome. We're glad you're here. You can attend at the University of Missouri. And by the way, the Retirement Education Foundation is a proud partner of Mizzou Athletics. You can also attend at Columbia College. In the state of Michigan, you can attend at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Novi or Troy campus, or Oakland University. It's your choice. So go to the website, find out more about these locations, the dates that work best for you, and get registered now. retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. The number to get registered is 800-240-8981. Now, I want to make sure that you know you can listen to this show. You can share it with your spouse, a neighbor, a friend. You can go back into our library, find other shows as well. Simply do that by looking wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And be sure to hit subscribe. The name of the show, by the way, so that you can search for it, Retirement Education Hour. All right, Kirk and Paul, I've learned a lot so far on this program today as we've covered a ton, but there's more to go. And you want to talk about how to choose an advisor. So this is also covered at the courses.
It is. This is the last part of the class, and probably one of the most important parts, and why I feel like we come on the radio show for the last decade in some markets, in some of the radio shows, begging people to attend a class because we know you're skeptical. But if we wanted to make this easy, increase the number of people attending the classes, instead of it being 8 hours, we'd make it 2 hours. I bet more of you would sign up. Second thing we'd do, we'd make it free instead of requiring you to make a small donation. The reasons we do this is because it is truly educational, almost master's level. You have to attend one of these courses if you're within 5 to 10 years of retirement or in retirement, so you know how to spend more, pay less taxes, retire earlier, and have less fear and anxiety. So how do you choose an advisor? Well, first, you need to accept that you need an advisor. So if you just went through those questions with me, do you know how much money you can take? Do you know when you can retire? Do you know what you're going to pay in taxes? Are you afraid of outliving your money? That's your trigger saying, yes, I need someone who specializes in retirement planning to help me. Then in the class, we help you identify the different types of advisors for different phases of life. And there are differences. It's just like you have a pediatrician, you have a general practitioner, you have then an internist, then you have general surgeons, then you have specialist surgeons. Same concept with retirement. This is a specialty. Your general practitioner, your general advisor is not going to be the perfect person for you, especially if you're that $700 to $10 million family. You need a specialist so you can have a customized, individualized plan. So in our class, we'll help you how to learn how to do background checks, to identify if they fall under a fiduciary standard or a suitability standard. And we teach you the differences of who you should work with and why you should work with them. Then we teach you how people get paid and the way we believe you should be, the type of person you should be working with. I'll just throw it out there, Paul. General rule on fees, you should pay 1% or less for everything. That includes your investments. That includes your advice. That includes the plan, tax projections for 30 years of mapped out income. Everything should be under 1%. All in, everything. But most people aren't, Paul, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, fees is a big thing. And part of it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Most people have no idea those hidden fees that they're paying in their mutual funds. They have no idea how much they're really paying because they just see, oh, their advisor fee, that's all they're paying. That's not all they're paying. So obviously, fees is a big deal. I'll tell you another piece of this section I really like is we give people a list of questions, sort of like, the idea is you should be interviewing that advisor, and these are the questions you should be asking them, and we sort of get into the details, the things that most people don't know about that they need to know when they're interviewing their advisor. Kirk, there are a lot of other things we talk about in terms of how to choose an advisor. I want to say one point. Sometimes I sit back in the class, and if you're doing this section, I'll sit back and sort of watch, and it's always funny because most people have this sort of surprised look when we get to this section. I don't know if you
Oh,
know
yeah,
this.
all the time.
Most people are like, wait, you're going to teach me how to choose an advisor? Because I think most people come to this class thinking, the goal of this class is for them to choose us as advisors. That is not the goal of the class. So when we get to the section and we walk through what they should look for, I think people are really a bit stunned. It's an important section. You need to know how to choose an advisor. We will help you here.
Yeah, Paul, part of that section, at the end of the class, we once again go through what an example of a real retirement plan is. And you're exactly right. People are stunned. They were coming thinking they were getting solicited, not getting educated. We're a charity. This is our job. This is what the charity's role is. This is the purpose over a decade ago why we've created the charity. So I would encourage our listeners, if you're still not sure, go to the charity's website and watch the webinar walking you through a sample plan, because we're going to go through that plan twice in the class. Right at the beginning, we're going to teach you how to understand that plan, and then back at the end of the class. Because how do you choose an advisor? You find someone that's built you an individualized plan showing you everything that we're teaching you that's in the class. And in that plan is telling you where you're taking your income from when, where's your pivot accounts, all the different accounts, and there's a lot of them, what you're paying in taxes every single year through a 30-year retirement, the most efficient path to do that. This 8-hour course will change your entire perspective on retirement. You will spend more, have less fear, and pay less taxes. Please attend one of our 8-hour classes. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Retirement Education Foundation is a fiscally sponsored program of United Charitable, a registered 501c3 public charity. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any insurance discussed in this show is backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Retirement Education Foundation is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Retirement Education Foundation. This radio show is paid for by the Retirement Education Foundation.